Great. Well, thank you all so much for joining us for the, November 2021 Tewksbury Genealogy Group. Tonight's topic is Italian Genealogy Basics. So the presentation tonight is with Peter Barbella. Peter will discuss how to establish your genealogical goals and provide helpful guidance, including tools, techniques, and demonstrations on how to research U.S. and Italian genealogical records. He'll also recommend sources, including Genealogy Clubs. I think he's also going to touch on social media and some websites that he utilizes in his own Italian genealogy research. And a little bit about Peter. Peter is a third-generation Italian-American, born and raised in the small village of Tarrytown, New York, on the banks of the Hudson River. He's retired after a long career in radar systems electronic engineering. He now lives in Massachusetts with his wife. 3 of his 4 children and 9 of his grandchildren also live here. Peter is a webmaster for the Cesano Project, which is an online indexed vital records dating from 1640 to 1940 for the commune of Cesano in the Campania. Sorry, Peter, my Italian's not great. Campania region, Campania. He is the author of 2 books. 1,800 kilometers in a Fiat 500, which is a genealogical adventure through southern Italy, and also the author of 27 Cottage Place, which is a memoir about growing up in an Italian neighborhood. Peter has taught local adult education classes in computers and genealogy, and he's also a member of the Italian Genealogical Group. So all 20 of us that are here live and those that will watch on demand, let's give a big virtual round of applause to Peter for joining us here tonight. And Peter, you can take it away. Thanks so much.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's my honor to be invited to speak to you tonight. I am, as you know by now, Pete Barbella. And it's important you should know that I'm not a professional genealogist, nor am I a professional teacher. Just an ordinary Italian American who's been studying genealogy for 20 years now. I've learned a few things, and I hope that tonight I can share some of those things with all of you. My presentation is broken into 3 main topics. Deciding upon your goal, taking a look at the U.S. records that will help you reach your goal, and for many of us, we're going to cross the Atlantic Ocean and get into the Italian records. Most of these records, if not all, are freely available online. You don't have to pay anything for these. We've also got several ancillary topics. We want to talk about a little bit about the history of Italy. It's important. If you want to know where you came from, you need to know a little bit about the history of the people whose shoulders we're standing on. We'll talk about Genealogy Software, a place to safely put all the facts that we're going to learn. We'll talk a little bit about social media. Facebook, love it or hate it, it has some uses. And we'll be talking about some other resources. So, with that under our belts, let's get underway. 3 main topics. Decide what you want. Well, what do you want may seem like a rhetorical question, but it really isn't. For most of us, the decision takes 2 major choices. And I like to use the analogy of a football team in a passing situation. Do you want to go long or do you want to go wide? If you want to go long, you're interested in starting from yourself and working back as absolutely as far as you can go. This one goes into the 1500s. And here you're going to be learning about all of your grandparents. If you want to go wide, you want to go back a few generations and then come down. You want to look at siblings. You want to look at siblings of siblings. You want to look at your cousins and how they spread across and where they came into America and how many of them are living today in America or in Italy. So those two things that you want to look at. So once you understand your goals, what you want to do, most of us are going to wind up at least starting with US records. We're going to look very carefully at US records. And here, the Holy Grail is to find the community of your immigrant ancestor. If you don't know that, that's something you really want to find. Once we find that, we can cross the Atlantic and take a look at the Italian records. Again, all freely available for us. Okay, well, let's talk about American records, searching in America. Most of us know quite a bit about our families already. We know who our parents are. Most of us know who our grandparents are and where they came from. Some of us know who our great-grandparents are. A few less know who our great-great-grandparents are. But the first thing you want to do is take a look in your attic, in your file of papers that you have. You want to identify the oldest person in your family and run, don't walk, to interview that person and get as much information as you can from them. In my own situation, I started my genealogy quest after my father had passed, sadly. And he left me a bag of documents. One of them was a complete set of pictures with no names on them. And I stare at them sometimes and wonder, wish he had put names on them. But one of the things that he did leave me was this marvelous marriage record. And here's where my journey began. Because I knew who my grandfather was, Francesco Barbella. Let me see if I can get some listed down here. Francesco Barbella. Now, Frank died when my dad was 2. So my dad never knew him, neither did I. We have no pictures of him, but I knew who he was. But I didn't know who my great-grandfather was. Pietro. Interesting. I didn't know who my great-grandmother was. Francesca Galatro. Interesting. New facts that I'm picking up. I did know who my grandmother was, Cecilia di Cristoforo, but I did not know her father was Raphael and her mother was Maria Trevelli, and that they came from the town of Vasto in Chieti. So here's a record that I pulled out of my dad's papers, and it gave me a bunch of information. When you find something like this, your Sherlock Holmes juices have to kick in, and you have to start thinking about, well, what else can these pieces of data lead me to? This is a real find for me. You can see now I know my grandmother came from Vasto on the Adriatic Sea, but I still don't know where Pietro came from. I know who his wife was, but I don't know his commune. So I need to keep looking. So once you've taken care of, let me get this pen out of here. Once you've taken care of your records, let me get rid of this. It's time to start in with the United States Census. Maybe all of you know quite a bit about the census already. You probably know it occurs every 10 years. It began in 1790, and it goes currently to 1940. In the spring, 1950 is going to be released, so we'll have some more data. over the years, the questions that are on the census have changed. In the early 1700s, they used to want to know how many slaves you owned. In the 1800s, many of them have, what is your race? Can you imagine the hysteria that would cause today? But these are great records and plenty of clues in them. You'll find years of marriage, you'll find births, and sometimes you'll find a hometown. Well, let's take a quick, let's divert to we're going to go into some census records. Now, let me go back here for a second. We're going to talk about the major tools: Family Search, Ellis Island, and Ancestry. Family Search and Ellis Island are free websites. You need to maybe get a password and a sign in, get an account, but there's no cost. Ancestry, maybe it costs. It depends. If you go to your library, most libraries have Ancestry right there, and you can do all the data you want in your library. Perhaps your library, like mine, because of the pandemic, has given us free access from home. So we don't have to go to the library. We can search Ancestry right from home. The one thing you can't do is use their family tree, but there's plenty of ways around that. We're going to take a look first at Family Search. And we'll look for a census record. When you sign into Family Search, you'll see a page like this. You want to go to Search, and you'll see right here, there's records. Okay, we put records. And over here, they'll give you, what name do you want to search for? Well, let's just pull a name. We're going to say Biancomano. And we're going to put more options. When you open up this window, you get the opportunity to filter your results. If I searched on Biancomano without any filtering, I probably would wind up with about 20,000 hits. But we're going to filter this just a little bit. We're going to go into type. Down here, we'll look at type, and we'll pick census records. Census, residence, and list. You can, if you have more information, the year of the birth, the spouse's name, you can filter more and more with these things. But today, we'll just filter with census records because I wanted to show a census. Now, we'll go into search. And we sit here for a while and we find out that we have 1,851 Biancomanos in the census records. And we'll pick this one, Mary Biancomano, whose birth was in 1910. If we come over here, we can see there's a camera. And if you click on that camera, you'll get into the actual census record itself. And here, we can see some interesting things. You'll get the full name of the person, the relationship. The first set of people here are borders to somewhere. You'll get a personal description. They're male, they're white, 28 years old, married, and for something. What is this? Number of years? Oh, number of years you've been married. These are clues that you need to write down and think about, because later on you'll be looking for something and you'll want to know this is the 1910 census. This guy was married in 1906. So there's information there. You come across and it'll give you where he was born. Sometimes this is golden. It will give you a community. It doesn't just say Italy. These people were all born in Italy. There's a couple of New Jerseys here. There's a mom and a dad who had some children in New Jersey. If we go on, we'll see the place of the birth of the mother. Interesting information. Sometimes there's a community in here. Okay. Now, here's some really good data. Year of immigration. Okay, this is a real good clue to hang on to know when they came in. Are they aliens? Are they naturalized citizens? You'll get what their occupation is, and some other miscellaneous information. All of these things need to be recorded and thought about because they're clues to further searching. So you've got census records, and you saw that on that particular census, it gave us an idea of the immigration date. So how do we find immigration? So there's a number of ways, but one of the best sites is the Ellis Island, the Statue of Liberty site. So we'll go take a look at that. I can find it up here. And if you go into the free Statue of Liberty site, you'll see this first page over here. You can't see this, I guess, because we're blocking it with screen, but it says start your search. And I'll click that, and you get a chance to put a name in here. Again, we'll put in Bianca Manor. Now, we can filter that further, or we can just plain search on that and see what comes up. Well, here's a list of Bianco Manos. There's a lot of them. And one of the things I want you to see is here, Giuseppe was born in Italy. Okay. But down here, look at Christina. Bingo, we have a community. We have her home community. She came from Padula. This is in Salerno. This is the town that Joe Petrosanti was born in. You may know him. He was a famous policeman in the 1900s. And down here, because I picked a name that I know has plenty of Sassano roots, I see this particular person came from Sassano. Here's Monte San Giacomo. So here on this set of records, it's very possible to get a hometown. And that's really important to know. That's important to know because when we get into Italy, records will be separated by hometown. You can actually go and look at these records. You can look at the ship manifest by clicking the picture, and you'll get a blown up version of the ship manifest. Whether they're going, it says where they're going when they come here. It'll give you their names. There's plenty of information here. There's more things than you're going to need, and you'll have all kinds of clues to do further searching if you look carefully at all of these records. Okay, so we've looked at some passenger records. Now in America, vital records, not so easy to find online. There are some. Family Search has some. Ancestry has some. Very few will have actual birth, marriage, and death certificates. Those you're going to need to go to state archives or the communities where they occurred. You can actually go there to these archives or the communities, or you can write to them. Most of them have methods that will allow you to send in requests. These will cost you some money. If you go there on your own, chances are you get away for free. People will help you. State Archives in New York is a wonderful place to go. Great library, full of records of New York Italians. So vital records are a little harder to find, but believe me, when we get into Italy, you're going to be swimming in vital records. That's what you have in Italy. So let's talk about passports. Can passports give us information? Indeed, they can. And this time we're going to go into Ancestry. Let me see if I can find my Ancestry site. Go here. Littleton Library gave us a link, temporary access from home. And we can get into Ancestry. Ancestry is a little different. You'll find that Ancestry and Family Search have like 99.9% all the same data. That's why I favor Family Search. It's free. Ancestry is free at a library, but if you wanted a home subscription, you need to pay for it. And it's not inexpensive. But here we can do a search. It's a little different than Family Search. When you push the search button, you'll have to make a choice of several items here. And we're going to take immigration and travel. And now you're going to get a window where you can start to narrow things down. I'm going to put in my great-grandfather, Pietro Barbella. I type him in. I know it's not that common a name, so I really don't need to put the rest of this information in here. But if your name is Russo, you better put some more data down here. You'll wind up with 6 million hits. But for Pietro Barbella, we're going to wind up with a couple of hits. The one I want to see is the passport applications. Right here. And you get a picture of his actual passport. Wait till you see what's in this. Here I find Pietro Barbella is traveling from the United States to Sassano. Here's where I found the hometown of my great-grandparents, Sassano, Italy, in the province of Salerno. Now listen to just understand the data I'm getting out of this. He's going to do this passport for himself and for Antonia, his daughter, okay, who was born in Brooklyn on the 20th day of December, 1891. Wow, good stuff to know. And my son, Francesco, this is my grandfather. He was born in Brooklyn, 20th of February, 1896. Wow, I'm writing as fast as I can write now. I've got data coming out of my ears. And I do solemnly swear that I was born in Sassano, a hometown, province of Salerno in Italy, on or about, his birthday, 31st of January, 1867. More data. I came to the United States on a steamer from Naples in 88, I believe that is, September. And I lived here for 9 years, uninterruptedly, from 88 to 87 in Brooklyn. I'm a naturalized citizen. So now I've got more information. And in the court of Brooklyn on the 25th day of October, 1893. Wow, I'm filling up all kinds of cards with information right now. I got a certificate of naturalization, and I live at 562 Sackett Street. God bless Google Maps. I can now look at where he lived in New York. I'm a laborer. Yeah, okay. Well, what he actually was a junk collector. Okay, and I'm about to go abroad temporarily. What was missing here was his wife, Francesca. And what I later found out was that Francesca had already gone back to Sassano. She died there at the age of 26. She got sick in the slums of New York City. Right after Francesco was born, she took sick and went back to Italy and died. I found that out later in Italian records, okay? But that's not all I found out here. One of the things I found out is that Pietro couldn't write. His mark is right here. Somebody signed this for him, but he was illiterate, like many of the Italians who came at that period, okay? Now, that's not all. Look at this. 30 years old. He's 5 feet 4.5 inches tall. He's got a broad, square forehead and brown eyes. His nose is straight. Makes me wonder about my nose. Mine's been broken, so it's a little bent. He's got a mustache. He's got a square chin and dark hair and dark complexion. And his face is long and pockmarked. I could almost draw a picture of him from this data. This is a gold mine here. I mean, you really become Sherlock Holmes now because there's a lot of stuff here we're going to follow. His birth date when we get into Italian records. And we've got the town now too. So this is a great record. And available freely. Family Search would have this also. I showed you how to do it on Ancestry just to make sure you know how to do Ancestry. Okay. Naturalization records are the same. We'll talk a little bit more about those when we talk about the National Archives. It's a good place to get naturalization records. That's coming up. All right. So you've done some research in the United States and you found, or you already knew, a hometown in Italy. Now we're going to look, we're going to get buried with vital records. And we're going to look at some history also. Very important. Here the major tools are Antenati. This is an Italian website, the Cultural Association. We can use Family Search once again. When we want to look at parish records, we'll probably be best looking at Italian parish records, a local website. For other data, history and military records, other civil records, copies of civil records, we can go to state archives. Every province in Italy has an archive, Archivio di Stato, they call them. And every community has a local anagrafe office. This place does oddball things like automobile licenses and civil records, taxes. It's a very interesting office. Okay, vital records. Let's start with Antenati. Maybe some of you know Antenati. Can't get... Can I move this thing down? Robert, can I move this bar down?
I think what you'll want to do, Peter, is minimize the U.S. passport applications, that screen. If you are you trying to go back to your PowerPoint? Is that the idea?
No, I can get to my PowerPoint. I'm missing some of my links up at the top. We're going to go into Antenati with a little smaller screen.
Oh, I see. And so what was the question? You want to enlarge it?
I wanted to get this thing out of here, this bar. It's in my way.
Oh.
But that's okay. We'll get around it.
Okay, so, sorry.
Here's the homepage for Antenati. And one of the things you want to look at is this little tidbit up here in the upper right corner. You want to try to keep that into English as much as you can. You'll get some English. You'll also get some Italian. So it's good to be able to read Italian to look at these. But down here, now let me stop for a second. Antenati is a source of civil records for Italy, but it's a source of so much more. You can see there's stories here in history, and you can actually look for names. Some names are indexed, but there is so much more in this, and I rarely use it. Most of us use it only to browse these registries for civil records. But it's way more than that. When you want to browse the registries, you click to browse the registries and you'll get a list of the provinces in Italy. Most of them. Not sure they're all there, but most of them are there. And you can come down and you can see the Archivio di Stato di Salerno, the Archivio di Stato di Rieti, they're all here. We'll pick Salerno because I'm familiar with that one. And whatever you pick, you're going to wind up with a choice of three things. You're going to wind up with Stato Civili Napoleonici. That's records that are very early 1800s. Stato Civili della Restaurazione, those are the mid 1800s. The Stato Civili Italiano are records from 1866 to 1910, civil records. It's Napoleon who began civil records in Italy. So that's why they begin. I think 1809 is some of the earliest ones. These are civil records, not religious records. Okay, so we could click on this middle one, and now we get all of the towns in Salerno, every one of them. And there's a bunch. We'll go to number 5 over here, and we'll pick Sassano. We come down here, and we can look at records of Sassano. And now what you'll get is another list of choices. You can get death records, morti, nati is birth records, matrimony is marriage records. These are all great. Matrimoni processetti, these are fabulous records because they contain birth and death certificates of parents and grandparents of the couple that had to be turned in before the priest would marry them. There's sets of diverse records. There's nati allegati, just another type of birth record. What I don't see here are the prenotationes. We'll find those when we go into family search. I'll talk a little bit more about them there. But if you pick a nati, a birth, now you'll get a set of years. Okay, and we can go and look at 1844, for instance. You get a couple of annoying clicks that you have to go through, and you get a list of images. This is the year 1844. Many times, the very last image here will contain an index. Let's just see, ultimo. We'll look at the last one here. This year it doesn't look like it did. But if you pick the image, you'll get an actual copy. Now you need to be able to read Italian. We're going to go back one more. These records come in sets of 2. There's 2 pages for each record. And here you'll see an actual birth record, civil, for the year 1844. You can see that on the 26th day of the month of December, tells you what time. Now, don't be intimidated by the Italian. We've got a reference coming up at the end that'll show you how to read these records and help you to see. And I'm going through this quickly because I've been doing it for 20 years, okay? And there's a learning curve here, but there's help to be able to read these records very quickly. You can see Sala Consolina, that's the county that the town is in. And you look for this word compariso. This means somebody came to me with a baby. And this is Don Giuseppe Raimondino. Now, this guy's more than a peasant. He's got a Don in front of him. It tells me how old he is. A little tough to read. This guy is 50 years old, 50, and tells me what his profession is, some kind of a civil servant. It tells me he lives in Sassano and that he bought a baby to get recorded in the town book. And it was born to his wife, Donna Justina Remondini. The name will be on the second page, the name of the baby, or over here. All of this information is in this record. It tells you the name of the parish. This is kind of a baptismal side of the record and a civil side of the record. So here's a way to go through year by year Italian records if you know the town that your immigrant came from. It's very useful information. And more hints. Okay. Now, we can kind of get the same information from Family Search. It's a little different format. All right, but we'll go back to Family Search. If I can find it up here. And we'll go back to the beginning of Family Search. This time we're going to search not for records, but by catalog. And I'll tell you why in a second. Here we're going to place the name of the town, Sassano. And we say, okay, that's what I want, Sassano and Salerno, search. And Family Search will now give me, well, yeah, we have some civil registrations, 2 pieces of data we have. And here they are. They have the early records, 1809 to 1865. And they have the 1866 to 1910s and another set of data. Years ago, we used to have to order tapes from Family Search and get them sent to a Mormon church center where we could sit down and look at them on machines. Today, you can look at these data right here on a computer from the comfort of your home. You click on one set of data and you'll see you get natos, or birth records, and publicaciones on this one tape. What's a publicazione? That's the bands of marriage. And they can be very important because if your relative marries someone from a different town, you will not find his marriage record in the town, but you will find his bands of record. Those are reported in both towns, the man and the woman's. But we could look here at this set of records, the birth records, for instance. And what you get when you look through Family Search, a little bit different than what you see in Antenati. Here you've got a page with 3,005 images on it. And these are by year. You can take a look at, you can blow these up, and you can see that this is the beginning of the birth records for the year 1866. You can go back to the large view. You come down here, and you'll see here is the birth records for 1867. Okay, interesting. On this one, you'll see the handwritten records. Again, these can be intimidating. I want to see if I can find an index. This is an example of an index. Not every year has these, but these can be very helpful. You can see these names. You see the Espositos. You see the Feminellas, the Forninos, all the Fs. Sometimes, with staggering annoyance, these indexes come by first name. You have to put up with things like that, though. So again, you can blow up these records. You can look at them. These records will be somewhat in Italian, somewhat in Latin. Over in the note and on the sides usually is an Italian name. You see, this is the birth of Vincenzo Feminella. And here again, it will show his father, Comparso Giuseppe Feminella. Now it's going to tell me that Giuseppe's father was named Francesco. And this little FU right here means that Francesco is gone. He's passed. Okay. And it's going to tell us that Giuseppe is 46. He's 46. He's a peasant living in Sassano. And his wife, he bought me a baby whose sex is, he's a boy, masculine. You learn how to read these things after years of looking at them. And he was born on the 3rd day of this month. The month will be up at the top of the record. And the wife is in here too somewhere. Let's look for Mogli, the wife, Arcangela Fornino, whose father is also passed, Giovanni. So here you're getting a birth of a child, his mother and father, and you get his grandparents. So there's more data to get from these records. It just piles up, data after data after data. Italian parish records, very different. In the Council of Trent, Italian churches were required to start recording the names. This is in the 1500s, recording their vital records. Some churches go even beyond the 1500s. Some churches were already doing this, but they were required in the 1500s. Now, to get parish records is a little bit more difficult. Let's take a look at what we can find here. I have a good friend in Pepperell, and she has put this site together almost single-handedly. She's a really dedicated person, and she has a passion for the history of Italy and its people and saving their records. So she's put this site together, which is quite amazing. And it allows you to search by region. So we could come up here and look and say, oh, I want to look in Campania. I can click Campania, and I'll get some provinces in Campania. She doesn't have every record because these are very difficult to come by. And she's seeking help trying to get these records, but this is a growing website. We could look in Salerno and see the towns in Salerno that she's got. We could look at Sassano and the parish records of San Giovanni. If you do that, you'll come up to this page. Each one of these blue rectangles represents a book that we found in the parish, the Mother Church of Sassano. And each one is loaded with different kinds of records. We could look, for instance, at the baptismal records. Now understand, these are not birth records. These are baptismal records. And here are all the images that she's got for records from the church. You can click on one and you can blow it up. This looks like it's part of an index. Yes, it is. This is the I page of the index. Let's get out of the index and see if we can find an actual record. Nope. Okay, here's some records. These are indeed in Latin, except for the side bars. You have Giuseppe, is the son of Francesco D'Amato. Gives you the year up here of this birth, and it tells you the mother and father. The baby was born of the legitimate marriage of Francesco D'Amato and Maria Patrizio. You can see these names right here. You learn to read these after you look at them quite a bit. There's godparents on these records, and there's who the priest was on these records. Again, more and more information about how to find out data about your family. Okay, state archives. Talk a little bit about the archives and anagraphy offices. Let's see if I can find this one. Here's the archive for Salerno. Every province has a state archive. Every one of them are about the same. They have chunks of data that are just beyond belief. There's history, there's videos of the people, there's civil records are here, military records are here, records of legal transactions are here, called notary records. And these are great things to find. If you can get into one of these places, they'll bend over backwards to help you. They will. You may find that they don't speak English, but they'll bend over backwards. If you write to these, you may get an answer. You may not. I've been very successful with Salerno, and I've been very successful in Avellino, but there's some archives that I've mailed to and not been responded to. So it's a little nip and tuck. And this will, if you find a record here that you want, they will charge you for it. They'll send you a copy, but first you have to know pretty much how they can go and get it. You need to know the dates, the towns, the dates. You need to know much information. And you can ask them to send you a record. They will. It will cost you 10 or 15 euros. The anagraphy offices are very similar. You can walk into an anagraphy office, and if they're not busy, they'll help you. If they're very busy, they'll kind of wish that you went away. So it's a nip and tuck. I've not heard anyone who's had success writing to an anagraphy office, but they contain all the civil records for the particular town. There's an anagraphy office in every community in Italy. Okay. So we've got records from America. We've got records from Italy. And what do we do with the data? Well, you can put it on 3x5 cards, I guess, but genealogy software is really designed to be able to suck up that data and help you put it into a database. There's many different kinds of genealogy software, and you'll find that they all have pretty much the same features. I'm going to show you a little bit about Roots Magic, the one I use today. Let me drop this down a little bit. I used to use Family Search. That's one of the popular genealogy softwares. I switched maybe 10 years ago to Roots Magic. Can't recall why, because I just wanted something different, which may be not a good idea because each one of these requires a little learning curve to learn. But the genealogy software will be a database of names and facts. This particular one that I'm showing you now has 14,000 names in it. And somehow it only consumes a couple of megabytes. It's pretty efficient. But you come in here and there's many features of this software that are very, very popular. You've got this picture of a family, a father and a mother and their children. grandparents are over here. All right. You can put this into a pedigree chart and see the pedigree of the people. On Roots Magic, they have a timeline, which allows you to see the timing events of births, deaths, marriages. It shows you that in a list, and it shows you it graphically up at the top. Roots Magic is pretty good with reports. You can make a wall chart real easy with this. We'll do hourglass. Just generate. You pick the person you want, and lo and behold, you'll get a nice chart of these people, and you can put the data you want in these boxes. It's very handy, very useful when you're trying to record your facts and figure out what's what. Now, I want to talk just for a second about sourcing. You will, if you get into Italian genealogy, you will at some point come up with a fact that you look at and you say, where did I get that from? How am I sure of that? I can't go on unless I can prove that this happens. And if you don't source your information fairly well, you'll run into that problem. Now, professional genealogists make a big deal out of sourcing. There's a book in the reference that I'm going to show you later that has about 6,000 pages, but honest to goodness, you only need to read the first 20 to get the point of it. The point of sourcing is this. Try to put down some information that tells you where you got that data from. Where did you find that birth? Where did you find that death? How do you know that? When you do that, it's difficult to get into trouble. Okay. We talk a little bit about genealogy clubs. Well, I guess you're all in one. TEWKSBURY, there are local clubs everywhere, Chelmsford, Littleton. Many people have Bedford. They all have genealogy clubs. Up here in New England, they're very Yankee oriented. So there's a little bit, not so much focus on Italian, but they're still good for learning how to do things in American records. Now, there's a thing called the Italian Genealogy Group, which is a paid group. If you want to join the group, you pay, but they have an amazing database of New York Italians that is free to use. The Italian Genealogy Group. The Italian Genealogy Society of America is based up on the North Shore. So that's a pretty good place to look for information about Italian genealogy as well. They do a lot of work up there. National organizations like the NIIF and the OSDIA, these are not so great for genealogy. They do some genealogy, but their focus is on Italian culture and Italian history. Okay. If you Google Italian genealogy, you're going to come up with a million different places to go see. Let's talk a second about social media. Sometimes I really hate Facebook. But I maintain my page. Let me see if I can get a home page here. And here's why. I'm in a bunch of different groups. Just take a look at some of these. We've already talked about the Italian Genealogy Group. Let me get this off of here. Distraction. Sons and Daughters of Italy is here. Sassano nella Storia. This is a page that's dedicated to the history of Sassano. If you look for a nella Storia with your hometown on it, you're liable to find it. This one's about culture. Here's a really good website, and we'll look at this one. My friend Nick D'Alessandro runs this site, and if I can get it on here, you'll see that they spend a lot of time. You could put a record on here and ask for help reading it, and 30 people will come in and tell you what data is on that record. If you find something you can't read and you put it here, they'll come and help you with that. Sei di Palo. Palo del Col is a small commune near Bari. If you search on Sei di and put the name of your town, you're very likely to find the page for your town. It will have people from your town and it will have news from your town. Festa in honor di San Rocco, the Italian experience. There are so many here. And if you just put Italy up there in the search box, you're going to get a whole bunch of these things. And these are worth gold sometimes. Okay, let's go back here. The National Archives, we've talked about it a little bit. Boston's National Archives is in Waltham, Mass. If you've never been there, you probably ought to go at least once. It's a great source for immigration records and naturalization records. You will get immigration records, I believe, from the Boston ports. You cannot find that in the website I showed you, Statue of Liberty site. But that's just a great place. They have a library. They have people who will help you there. And actually, I'm not sure it's open, but if you find it's open, it may be closed because of the pandemic, but if it's open, it's a wonderful place to go. Talk about newspapers for a second. You can pay money to get a newspaper site, or you can use my favorite, is the Library of Congress. If you go to the Library of Congress, this is an amazing site. There's a lot of stuff here. But if you click on digital collections over there, you'll see this thing about chronicling America. If you click on that, you'll get access to thousands of newspapers that they've digitized. And you can filter out some things. And we'll do a little search here. We'll go from 55 down to 1900. Oops. Let me get over here. Here's 1907. We're going 1907, 1950. Let's search on the term Vanzetti. I wonder if you know who Vanzetti was. And you will get all kinds of newspapers about the Sacco and Vanzetti affair. These newspapers you can blow up, you can read them, you can move them around, you can see the pictures. These newspapers they're just a wonderful source of history. And you can even type your family name up there in that search box, and chances are you'll find some story about somebody in your family. Great source of newspapers, free. Library of Congress. Well, I say free. We all pay taxes, so I'm sure it's not quite free, but it's there for the taking. And it's a great site. It's a great source. Google Books is another good source. If you don't know what Google Books is, you should find out. If you can search on Google Books, you put your own name in there and you'll find books about your own name. You'll find, if you type Italian history, you will find more books to read than you have time to read. It's pretty amazing. Okay. Lastly, I wanted to point out a couple of references. This book by Trafford Cole, you'll find in your library. This is a great book because he has history of Italy. He has the logic behind the records, how to read the records. He will show you how to write a letter to an Archivio di Stati, a letter or an email. And this book has occupations. It has all kinds of data about the handwriting. This is a great book, and you can find it at your library, I'm sure. Dr. Coletta has written a couple of good books. His book, They Came in Ships, is really a wonderful resource for immigration data. Let's talk about history for a second. At the Littleton Library, we have a service called Canopy. I'm willing to bet that many libraries have this same service. Canopy is a bunch of movies, but it includes a series of videos that they call the world's great courses. One is called the Renaissance. And I've got to tell you that if you think you know something about the Renaissance, you'll be amazed at what you learn by watching this set of 40 videos that describe the Renaissance. What you'll learn about Italy is just astounding. Not only that, but Dr. Jennifer McNabb is an absolutely riveting lecturer. Dr. Gregory Aldrete will give you a bunch of videos about the Roman Empire. You'll learn all kinds of interesting things as he parades around in his gladiator suit and demonstrates different things about the Roman Empire. There's other great books here on Google Books. You could find this Life of Victor Emmanuel by Sarah Goodkin. This was written in 1890, I believe, shortly after the Risorgimento. If you don't know what the Risorgimento is, you need to study that a little bit to find out why people in southern Italy couldn't wait to get out of there over to America. They couldn't wait to vacate that beautiful land, if you've ever seen it, to come to the slums of New York City. What the Risorgimento did to southern Italy is a shame. You'll find in Sarah's book, she'll talk about this, the Risorgimento from the viewpoint of northern Italy. A little different. Let's see. If you don't know about Elena Ferrante's Napolitano books, you need to get to your library fast. These are great books, great novels. They're novels, but they give you an unbelievable picture of what life was like in post-war Naples. Brigand Life in Italy is another wonderful book I got on Google Books. You can download these things right into your Kindle, okay, and you can read them on your Kindle. The brigands arose from the Risorgimento, bands of robbers that marauded the different places in southern Italy, not unlike Robin Hood. But these are references that you want to look. Most, if not all of these, you can find in your library. With that, I think I've taken up my time. Robert, I think, are you awake?
I'm awake, Peter.
Okay, I'm all done.
Great. So folks, so let me do this. I'm going to stop the recording.